Hello everyone, welcome to the Geoecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand, and in this session on climatology, we are going to talk about condensation process, its various types and its various forms. So it is related to the hydrological cycle that we say. So let's discuss this concept, but before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also share the videos with others as well. So now let's understand this water cycle that is also called hydrological cycle and its important relationship with the climatology. So water cycle is the regulation of or the exchange of water between all these spheres that we know, right from atmosphere to the biosphere to the actually hydrosphere, so oceans and continents. So remember, this is a cyclic concept that we study right from school days NCERT, and its importance is right till the importance level of what you say is the global climate. So hydrological cycle is one thing that we need to understand, and also the factors related to it, and later on in this session we are also going to talk about various forms of condensation and their characteristics. So hydrological cycle, as we know, it is a continuous exchange of water. Now this exchange of water, do you see here what happens? In the earlier lectures also we have talked about various kinds of circulation of air and water, right? So moisture becomes very much important. So what happens at the ocean or the land water? It evaporates, right? And then it goes up, and where the cloud formation happens, and when it reaches a dew point, remember, then saturation happens and then rainfall happens. So we have already understood this, and again this water is coming back to the land, and again it flows through the rivers to this particular oceans. So this is a complete cycle that keeps happening, and in this cycle there are a few processes that are very much important. So at first step that we understand is the process called evaporation, right? Then what we have is the process of condensation. So first is the evaporation process, then evaporation happens, and further in the atmosphere, remember what happens? Condensation starts. So during this condensation, again there is a heat change which is called latent heat, which is released, right? So this is also important, which we have learned in the concept of tropical cyclones as well, right? And apart from this, there is something called transpiration. Remember, that happens from the green leaf of the plants through these pores. That is what water is released. So this is called transpiration. So evaporation and transpiration together, they are called evapotranspiration, and that is important to understand. So this is what is related to the concept of the circulation of water, right? So evaporated water undergoes then condensation and they form clouds, and then again what happens? Through the clouds, if rainfall happens, the water again comes back to the surface. So since total amount of moisture in the entire system remains constant, now here is the catch. In this entire cycle, what is constant? The total amount of moisture, right? So this is important to understand. The same amount of moisture is there in the entire system, which is kept on circulating and circulating. So that is important to understand. Now, why are we studying it? To understand how it is balancing the entire system. So a balance is required between evapotranspiration and precipitation. So remember, evaporation and transpiration happening, and then the condensation happening. So it means this is something like input and then output. So input and output has to be in a balance that we talk about. So this is that balance which is maintained by which cycle? Hydrological cycle. This balance between evapotranspiration and precipitation or condensation that we say, it is this particular balance which is important for the climatology. Now let's elaborate further more. Now let's understand this content, that is water vapor in atmosphere. So water vapor in air varies from 0 to 4% by volume. Now remember, this is 0 to 4. This range is important. Maximum it is 4% by volume of the atmosphere, if you see. So averaging around how much? 2% in the atmosphere. So maximum is up to 4%. That is important. So amount of water vapor, that is humidity, is measured by an instrument which is called hygrometer. And remember, we have already discussed in the humidity, the various kinds of humidity. So that is where water vapor is measured in per unit volume of air. So it's important. So significance of atmospheric moisture is what we need to learn. So first important point is that water vapor absorbs radiation, both incoming and terrestrial. Remember, that is important. In heat budget also we discussed about this. So water vapor actually absorbs radiation, and it thus plays important role in what? In Earth's heat budget maintenance. Then what we have is the amount of water vapor present decides the quantity of latent heat that will be stored. Remember, so that is important here. Then what is here? The atmospheric moisture affects the human body rate of cooling as well. So that is where it is concerned directly with human beings, right? So human body's rate of cooling by influencing the sensible temperature that we say, right? The room temperature, remember? So that is also important. Then evaporation is another factor that is important. So what happens here? Let's see. Oceans covering 71% of Earth's surface hold 97% of the Earth's water. That is important to understand. That ocean, in terms of area, it has 71% of Earth, but it covers 97% of Earth's water reserves. That is important. So maximum evaporation happens where? In the oceans only. So evaporation may be taken as the starting point of hydrological cycle, right? So that is important. And further, if we see, the oceans contribute to 84% of annual total and the continents, that is 16%. So remember, oceans are the maximum controller or maximum contributor in that way to the hydrological cycle, while the land masses are contributing just 16%. Remember, that is one of the important key factors. So distribution of land and water becomes one of the really important point. Now, highest annual evaporation. Remember where it occurs? Subtropics of Western, North Atlantic and North Pacific. And why? Because of the influence of these Gulf Stream, that is warm ocean current and Kuroshio current, and in the trade wind zone of the southern oceans as well. So these are the regions where evaporation is maximum. So remember, maximum evaporation, subtropics to the trade wind belt, that is the maximum insolation belt. So you have maximum evaporation also occurring there only. And land maximum, remember, maximum evaporation on land, which is called land maximum, occurs where? In equatorial region, because of high insolation and luxuriant vegetation. So remember, evaporation as well as transpiration through the leaves. That is why it happens maximum in equatorial region in the land areas specifically, if you see, right? So that's important. Now, we have talked about certain components in the earlier lectures as well. For example, humidity, which is an important component of hydrological cycle, which basically means water vapor present in the air, right? So if you see, this is a dry condition and this is a wet condition. So you have different situation here, right? This is important to understand in terms of humidity. So if you have not watched the video on humidity, please go there for the details as well. Then we also discussed about this dew point concept, right? So it is also important in terms that we need to understand what is dew point and its significance in climatology. So the air containing moisture to its full capacity, what is called saturated air, and that point, that temperature basically, if you see, right, a particular temperature where this saturation occurs, that is called dew point. And remember, this is important for your cloud formation and rainfall or precipitation, right? Because now the air is saturated, it cannot hold any more moisture. So any more moisture, it means the rainfall will start happening. So dew point occurs where relative humidity is 100%, that we have discussed in detail in the previous lecture as well. So now we have already discussed about the evaporation part or transpiration part. Now let's understand the condensation part or precipitation part of the hydrological cycle. So transformation of water vapor into water, this is the basic definition of what you say is condensation. So condensation is caused by what? Now here is the catch, loss of heat. Remember, during the evaporation, heat was absorbed, right? So that was actually absorbed by the vapor. So that is also called vaporization or heat of vaporization, right? But here what you see during condensation, now it is cooling down and energy is actually released out by the system. And that is what we understood as latent heat of condensation. Remember, just opposite the latent heat of vaporization, which is absorbed, right? So that is important to understand. And when moist air is cooled, now remember, when there is a vapor and it is cooled, what happens? It reaches a level when its capacity to hold water is actually done. So its maximum, it means now it has reached 100%. So saturation point is 100%. It means relative humidity is the 100% factor. Now no more water can be stored, remember, in that particular air. So that is called dew point, as we remember. So then this excess water condenses into liquid form, and this is that process what we say is condensation happening, right? So if it is directly condensing into solid, remember, now if there is a vapor condition, it goes into liquid, then it is condensation, right? But if directly it solidifies, then what it is called? If it converts directly into solid, that is ice crystals, it is called sublimation. Remember, that is the difference between a condensation and sublimation. So many times what happens, this cooling starts happening abruptly, right? So in that case, sublimation happens. That is where you see blizzards, hailstorms, right? Those are important. Snowfall happening. So this is what we say is that condensation has two forms. If you see, one is gradual condensation and one is directly into solid forms. So it can be either precipitation of different forms that we need to understand. So now let's understand various kinds of this precipitation that happens or condensation that happens. So in free air, condensation results from cooling around a very small particle which is called hygroscopic condensation nuclei. Remember, we talked about the cloud formation, and there we said that aerosols are important to actually give seat to these, remember, condensated liquid or ice crystals. So these are those nuclei which provide base for this cloud formation, right? They are called hygroscopic condensation nuclei. So particles of dust, smoke, pollen, salt from the oceans are particularly good nuclei, as we say, for the absorption of this water. They give base to this. So condensation also takes place when moist air comes in contact with what? Colder object. So remember, this is also interesting. So it may also take place when the temperature is close to dew point. Now here is a catch, that if moist air comes into the contact with colder object, it means if you are on the mountain slope and this is a moist air and here is a glacier, so what will start happening here? This will start condensating and it will start cloud formation here, or at least fog formation here that we see. So whenever you go to the mountain areas and if you look into the hilltop, during the daytime when it is sunshine, what happens? Cloud starts forming, right? That air near this particular glacier or this particular mountain top which starts cooling. So that is why after some time of the sunshine, you see lots of cloud rising on those particular areas of glacier, right? So condensation therefore depends upon the amount of cooling and the relative humidity of air. This is what we need to keep in mind. So amount of cooling is the one factor and RH is the second factor that we need to consider. So now let's elaborate on the conditions for this condensation, which is important, which gives birth to various kinds of precipitation. So when the temperature of air is reduced to dew point, now remember, when the temperature is reduced to dew point, in this case what happens? With its volume remaining constant. Now remember, if volume is constant, then the process, remember what happens? It is adiabatic process, the PVT situation. So one is constant and there is variation in the other situation. So this is what we say is adiabatic process happens. So when both the volume and temperature are reduced. Now remember, if the volume and temperature V and T both are reduced. So what happens when moisture is added through the air? So when it happens, when moisture is added to the air through evaporation. If moisture is added through this parcel of air through evaporation, what happens? It is getting more moisture. So here volume and temperature are reduced, but moisture is actually gaining. So there now see adiabatic changes happening. So after condensation, what happens? The water vapor or the moisture in the atmosphere. Now remember this point. Water vapor or the moisture that we say in the atmosphere takes one of the following forms. Which forms? Either it is dew, frost, fog, and cloud formation or rainfall happening. So condensation takes place when the dew point is lower than freezing point in that situation as well, and if it is higher than freezing point as well. Now remember, if this is that line where I say this is dew point, so even if it is higher, it will be a precipitation. Even if it is lower than value, it will be a precipitation. It's just that the precipitation will be of different kinds. Right? So if it is below the dew point, it will be different. If it is above the dew point, it will be different. So now let's understand this further more. So the forms of condensation will depend upon how the temperature is there related to the dew point. So the forms of condensation can be classified on the basis of temperature at which dew point is reached. So condensation can take place when the dew point is lower than freezing point and higher than freezing point, case 1 and case 2. So when frost, snow and other clouds like cirrus clouds are produced when temperature is lower than freezing point. Now remember, if temperature is lower than freezing point, then frost or snow and some clouds. Remember, if temperature is in negative, that is what lower than freezing point, that is 0 degree. But if it is higher, it is closer but it is higher, it means it is 1 degree or 0.5 degree, so it is above the dew point, right? In that time, what happens? Dew is formed or fog is formed or clouds are resultant in that situation where it is slightly above the dew point. So dew point is where the saturation happens, right? That is what we need to understand, that condensation also happens above the dew point temperature and below the dew point temperature, right? And in what ways the forms change, that is important to understand here. So now let's understand it one by one, the various types. So one, what we study clearly is called dew. If you remember what happens, this is grass where these water droplets are deposited. We say lots of dew is there on the ground or moisture is there on the ground. Remember in the cricket field, in cricket matches, dew condition, it has lots of role to play in terms of when you say there is a day-night match. So when the moisture is deposited in the form of water droplets on cooler surfaces of solid objects rather than nuclei in air above the surface. Remember, it is deposited on the other cooler surfaces such as stones, grass blades, plant leaves. These are called dew because these are cooler surfaces. So if atmospheric condition and ground condition is a contrast, it means ground condition becomes cooler, then what happens? The dew formation happens, right? So the water droplets actually settle down on these cooler surfaces. So the ideal conditions for its formation are clear sky, calm air, high relative humidity. Remember, the moisture has to be high, and cold and longer nights. So this is when the situation is ideal for dew formation. So generally during the winters, when it is in northern hemisphere, the advent of winters bring this idea of dew actually. So for the formation of dew, it is necessary that dew point is above the freezing point. Now if it is at the freezing point, remember this is 0 degree freezing point, then if it is not above the freezing point, it will not be in this dew format, in this liquid format, right? It will be frozen. So that is the reason. And next we understand is the frost condition. So remember, the frost is actually deposited in terms of the solidification. So frost forms on cold surfaces just like dew. But what happens here? The condensation here takes place below freezing point. So see the difference here? Dew was a water droplet and frost is actually hardened, right? It's solidified. That is important because it is below the freezing point. That is, the dew point is at or below the freezing point. That is important. So dew point is below freezing point, it means it will be solidified. If dew point is above the freezing point, it means basically what? It will be in liquid form. This is the basic idea, right? So the ideal conditions for the formation of white frost that we see here in this image also are same as those for the formation of dew, except air temperature must be at or below freezing point. That is when the frost formation happens, right? Now, the very famous that we see is the fog. In details, we are also going to learn separately on the fog. So when the temperature of an air mass containing a large quantity of water vapor falls all of a sudden, condensation takes place within itself on fine dust particles. Now remember, if dust particles are here and this is a cool condition, so what happens? Condensation happens, and these dust particles which are hanging in the air actually gets this particular moisture condensation, right? So fog is a cloud only, but remember there is a difference. Cloud is more denser, it is more bigger in that way if you see, but it is kind of a cloud situation itself with its base at or very near the ground. So remember, cloud formation happens at a certain level, that is 1 or 2 kilometers above the ground, but fog is actually like this. You remember, this is a road and this is where you see foggy condition. Even some meters you cannot see further, right? So visibility becomes poor. So this is the difference, right? But the process of formation is very similar like cloud. So it also requires condensation nuclei, and which is closer to the ground. So if there is a dusty situation and it is a cold air in the ground surface, if it is cold temperature, so moisture is there in the situation. If it is, so it will be a foggy situation, right? So this is what we see, that moisture is important, and specifically in the areas where you have lots of greenery, what you have, moisture is there through transpiration, right? So that moisture is already available. So that's where you have green areas with more fog in winter situation that you observe. Now, important is something called frontal or precipitation fog. That is also important to understand here. So it is produced due to the convergence of warm and cold air as well, where you have frontal formation, so warm air, cold air mixing. So there you have frontal or precipitation fog that develops. So in details we are going to learn about the fog in a separate lecture as well. For here, just remember there is something called frontal fog, which is normally different from a convection fog, that is rising air and then again cooling air. So this is a frontal fog or precipitation fog that we also know. Then we have something called mist. Now this is important to understand that many people use mist and fog interchangeably. Then what is the difference? The difference between the mist and fog is that mist contains more moisture than fog. Now this is clear-cut difference. So if you remember, if you say mist, it means it is more moisture content in the air, right? So in mist, each nuclei contains a thicker layer of moisture. That is a significant difference. And mists are frequent over mountains as the rising warm air upslopes meet a cold surface. Now remember, the inversion of temperature situation happens in the mountain and valley. That's where the misty situation occurs. So fogs are drier than mist. Fogs have less moisture content. That's how we identify fog is different from mist. But the conditions of formation are similar. So they are prevalent where warm currents of air come in contact with the cold currents. That is where the fogs are formed. So in mist, visibility is more than 1 kilometer but less than 2 kilometer. This is also a statistical data to remember, that normally the range of visibility in the misty condition is not more than 1 kilometer or 2. So that is important. It also obstructs the visibility. But if you see the significant difference between a fog and mist, mist has more moisture content. That is important to understand. Then what we have is something called haze. Whenever we say it is hazy, what is it? Basically, haze is a traditional concept of atmospheric phenomena where dust becomes important. So if it is too much dust or smoke or other dry air, what happens? It starts obstructing or obscuring our visibility. So that is called a hazy situation. And remember, this haze has a thing to do with inversion of temperature, because if the temperature is inverted, if inversion layer is here, this particular zone becomes hazy because of the addition of these pollution like traffic, industry, wildfires. So this is a condition also that keeps happening where inversion of temperature is there. So it is also related to that. So it is called haze. Now the last one that we know is smog. And what is smog? Smog is basically the combination of fog and smoke. So that is called smog. And if you look at this particular image of Taj Mahal, what do you see? The smoggy conditions because of the industrial pollution in Agra. So it is caused by burning of large amounts of coal, vehicular emissions, industrial fumes, which are called primary pollutants. So when they mix with this particular fog situation, they produce smog. So in details, we are going to learn about the fog as well as the smog in separate lectures in details. So this is all about the various forms of the precipitation or condensation and how this hydrological cycle is maintained from evaporation to the condensation or precipitation. So now, when we have understood the process of condensation, its various forms and characteristics related to this concept, in the sessions to come, we'll be talking more on climatology. So stay tuned, stay safe, all the best wishes.